they are supposed to be seeking truth and justice. To honor that within a court of law, you need evidence. You need to show your work of how you are saying this person is a criminal. And part of that is showing how you got it. So I do think in an effort to uphold the Constitution, there is transparency required. Did you guys know that when FBI agents interview someone, they don't record it? They take notes. Do you trust that they have perfect memory and ability to scribble in their notepad exactly what you said?
I can make this so much worse. Like, people have no idea where we're headed. Do you realize that the device I pull out of my pocket can record literally every sound that you make, every keystroke you've ever typed on it, whether you deleted it or not, and that there are data silos under the mountains in states like Utah and Nevada and Colorado storing terabytes upon petabytes of data of people's conversations, of people's text that they typed, every website they visited. If you have one of those apps that tracks your heart rate, what that was while you were doing it. My friends actually, she texted me and thought it was hilarious at the beginning of the year that it tracked that her number 2 loss of sleep was masturbating. So her watch that she was wearing knew that she was diddling herself, and it also knew her buying behavior and her internet behavior within an hour on either side of that activity. Okay, so that's one aspect of where this is going, but this is the big one. Do you trust them to take notes faithfully? Do you trust that they haven't implanted something from that they allege that you typed into your phone in 2015 on some device you don't even have, that you deleted and didn't send to anybody? And then when the evidence comes to court, because you're a political dissident, you disagree with what the regime's doing today, they pull you up in front of the Department of Justice, they hold you in a trial, and they say, well, what evidence do you have? And they trot out a digital ID that they implanted into that data silo that you never actually did. And what are you going to do?
There are people nodding along to this guy.
Well, here's the digital record of that, sir. This is the direction that this can go, and this is why this is such an incredibly important topic for us to be talking and thinking about right now, because we are right now about a year and a half away from the technology with AI to be able to start data mining those gigantic silos of data and be able to decide through kind of minority report style pre-crime analyses of people who might be a dissident, who might be a problem, who might be a potential terrorist, who might just be an agitator to the state, like a lot of the people who just happened to show up at January 6th or whatever and ended up in prison.
This is so fucking crazy.
Who are these people? And then if they want to put you away and lock you away without due process or whatever else, they can do so on potentially fabricated digital signatures of things you typed or said or websites you might have visited. Oh yeah, you went to a bunch of child porn sites back in 2015 or 16, you don't even remember it, but here's the digital record that they could implant. I'm telling you, when you start talking about the potential for violating people's constitutional rights,
you went to a bunch of pedophile websites and you don't remember it? What the fuck?
No. The question on the panel is, how do we know if we can trust
Bro, I was like
when this
totally blasted. I don't even remember wanking it to 3-year-olds. What the fuck?
So we know that people who have the power, who have sufficient amounts of corruption, will employ this technology to their own advantage. How do we know that our other 3 other agencies or whatever else appointed by the same president or the same presidential personnel office, not the president, virtually every administration, how do you know that those people don't have some broader political agenda that's going to shut down, maybe it's deplorables this year, maybe it's libtards next year, or whoever, maybe, President Dictator Trump or whoever gets in office and decides he's going to shut down every progressive that's ever spoken up, and they use the DOJ to implant this digital evidence. I'm telling you, this is where this is going. And we know it's going here, not because, it's possible. So the speculative Black Mirror episode is literally what they're doing in China. And so the people who want to build a digital architecture with a social credit score and a digital ID, etc., like China, are going to be able to employ tools like they witnessed in China if it's a threat to their power. Do you see Edward Snowden on American soil? No, he's still hiding out, and there's a reason why. And all he did was expose what they were doing. Not to say that it was legal, but what he did was expose what they were doing and they really didn't want that exposed. So this can multiply.
They didn't
very
have to
quickly
fabricate
into a
evidence.
totalitarian state, unlike anything we've ever seen before. So when we start talking about trust and transparency, this is like some next level important conversation where I bet they're probably not messing up because the presidential appointee.
Destiny's knee is bouncing. He's ready to go.
Okay, so
Oh my God, they're clapping. They're clapping.
We're gonna power level up to that kind of security.
Okay, I agree that the conversations are important, but the reason why we can never have good conversations in society is because both sides want to hijack it into the most insane, like, conspiracy territory so that we don't even get to
Peter
talk
Coffin
about
is sitting
what's
right to my
actually
left.
happening. So, the idea that simultaneously these organizations have somehow, behind the backs of every corporation, gotten into these like semiconductor fabrication plants and installed secret microchips that I guess Intel maybe nobody knows about, but then come out and they cry publicly, Apple, please unlock the phone for our investigation. We can't get in. It's insane. How can both of these things be true at the same time? There are corporations with vested interest in security in their technology to make the public understand that like there isn't a secret backdoor.
No.
There is no way. Hold on, wait.
This is so important.
No,
No,
I agree that
security.
Hang on just a second, James. I'll give you a chance.
Listen, one point. There's a severe difference,
Here we
you can
go.
address it, between privacy and security. They do give you security. They don't give you privacy.
All right,
Well,
continue.
privacy and security can go hand in hand. I mean,
They
it depends
don't.
on if they usually they do. Generally, when somebody feels like their information is private, it's because they want to keep it secure, and that private information, like a password, might be related to your security. It might be the biometrics you use to sign into your phone. It might be something you type in a private message or whatever. But usually, privacy and security go hand in hand. That's why if you open your Twitter, any social media account is usually under the exact same tab. I think that it's important to have conversations about techniques that people use when they do these investigations. But I mean, like, if you want to know if your phone is tracking you, if you want to know if it's sending data off, like, you can download programs, you can look at the telemetry of any device you use and find out where data is being shipped off to. Like, the information, you can't hide it on your router. You really want to see where the data is being sent to. If you think that other corporations are sending it off to people, why do so many corporations fight with these agencies when they try to pull information out of them? Facebook is fought with people over it. Apple is fought over giving like passwords or backdoor encryptions into phones to the FBI. The idea that these organizations are simultaneously fighting and cooperating at the same time just doesn't make any sense. We also keep using this word illegal, unconstitutional. I think that what we need to say is, I don't like it. When you say something is illegal, you mean, I don't like this thing. When you say something is unconstitutional, I don't like this thing. Because again, if they're employing all of these illegal tactics, where are they in the courts? Why haven't these been challenged anywhere?
No,
Why are
it's
people
much
taking
worse.
them up? So
It's
this
much
idea-
worse than
this
that.
idea- this
Oh my
idea
God,
that all of
this
these agencies
crowd
are
is full of
fundamentally
fucking
corrupt, fundamentally
crazies.
untrustworthy. We can't trust any of them. But we can trust like Alex Jones and Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and these people that are getting paid so much money to sell you these narratives, right? We don't look at the conflict of interest there. We only look at this amorphous plot, which you rightfully pointed out. I'm glad you did. These organizations are full of tons of human beings. You're telling me that there is this top-down plot and the FBI where there's a culture created where they're using all these illegal and illicit tactics and nobody's leaked anything. But I was able to read text messages from the select group of investigators that Mueller was using. Like, we had a whole court thing over this. They were talking about leaked text between, I don't remember Peter, I don't remember the guy's
Are we talking about Tucker Carlson's emails? Whoops.
no, Strzok, yeah, Strzok or whatever, right? We're getting personal text messages, private text messages between two of these people. One, I don't even think was an agent, but I think they both might have both been agents. But the idea that we have like this level of transparency in some parts, and then in another part, it's all this amorphous fluff. I think that we can just ditch all of the conspiracy nonsense and let's bring it back to reality and let's have a conversation about what should the techniques be that these agencies are allowed to use. Let's not pretend that they somehow have private technology that's like outdoing the public sector by decades or whatever. Any of these like crazy things, because it's lunacy.
You think I got this from Tim Pool? Are you drunk?
I don't think we need
He didn't
to
hear a
get
goddamn
to
word
that
after Tim Pool.
extreme to expose what they're doing and talk about the tactics, because the reality is 2% of indictments go to trial, right? Most of them are plea deals. During that process, you know, FBI agents can lie to you, they can say whatever they want to get you to talk. If you lie, it's perjury, that's a federal offense. So they can say a whole bunch of things. They can say
You can just
they
not
have
say anything.
what you're talking about, and that if you go
You
to
could get a
trial,
lawyer.
you are going to be perceived as a predator because you meet these other criteria. No jury is going to take you seriously or have any sympathy for you. You're not
What is that?
credible.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? What do you mean?
Like you can't take somebody to trial and just say like this guy's a like you have to present some sort of evidence to substantiate that, right?
Yeah. Well, you can indict them off of very flimsy evidence. You can indict them off of testimony, you can, sorry?
A confession is good evidence. You know, we're gonna go to trial, we have XYZ, why don't you just admit it to us, you're gonna look really bad, and we'll make a deal with you.
I mean, this is what.
That's why you have a lawyer.
Don't they say, what was this guy's name? Miranda,
Miranda.
right? Yeah, we have these things read off to us when you're arrested. I mean, I agree, it's really dumb that people talk to the cops about getting a lawyer, but what more are you gonna do, right? You read them your rights when you arrest
No,
them.
but he's saying someone else. Like someone else
You know they
can
interview
say you
people
did
before
something.
arrest, right? And they don't have to read Miranda rights before arrest. They do that.
I don't,
They
I'm not
do
sure
have
that
to.
it's
Miranda
basic
rights
ins-
are a ritual. Like, that doesn't stop an FBI agent from sitting down and lying to you in a questioning room where there's no recording, there's no defense, and you can't even reply in
This
lying counter.
does not
And they say,
happen.
we have XYZ on you, and you don't have the slightest maybe idea, let's say you're totally innocent, you don't have the slightest idea how they got it, you don't know what it is. And they say, well, look, we have the evidence, we're gonna take you to court, we're gonna try you on it. The easiest path out of this for you is to cut a deal with us right now of some kind, plead guilty, write a confession.
They
etc.
have to-
Now
they
hard
have to
evidence when it goes
inform
court.
you.
They've manufactured the evidence, this is totally possible, this is
No, this is
happening.
not true.
I don't think it happens all the time that they admit. I think that there are a few huge cases where it happens, and we hear about it when they've totally fabricated something out of thin air. But I mean, again, like, all you can tell people, like, you have rights afforded to you. Now we're actually talking about rights, not that we think it's illegal, we think it's unconstitutional. You actually have rights afforded to you as an American that if you want to talk to an officer, right? Am I being detained? Am I free to go? Am I under arrest? Okay, well, I want a lawyer. I'm not talking to you until
Sovereign citizen Destiny Bonnell.
Not enough people know that.
And
If
you're
you want to
afforded
know
a
the-
right to a speedy trial, which if everyone did, the courts would collapse. Like these are, I agree, these are the things, more people need to know their rights. But the problem is, as I said before, most people think it doesn't affect them. You live a reasonably,
That's not the
you pay
system's
your
problem,
tax.
it's people's problems. Like, tell people.
I am, that's what I'm
Okay,
hearing.
that's, yeah, no. So we're selling the message that these systems are fundamentally corrupt and unworkable. A lot of times people just don't know how to work the system, right?
So-
A lot of people, I watch, so I'm sure you guys are all familiar with like the JCS YouTube videos, where you will get investigators that build entire cases in the interrogation room, because for some reason they just decide to talk. And I mean, I guess it's good when they find the bad guy or whatever, but yeah, I mean, more people should be aware of what their rights are.
A
And
lot of
they
that's
should be
more
more arrested.
Miranda warnings, by the way. They get a lot of those before Miranda.
If you've been arrested,
Yeah, but a lot of these are before they're arrested. They just bring them in, they're like, oh, we want to learn about what happened to so-and-so or whatever.
I don't know if you can say
I
that.
don't know that this person did it, but they don't have probable cause for arrest, and they try to determine that in the interview process.
I wish I the answer is I don't know it offhand.
No, they-
But I don't know
there was
if you can
actually-
submit that evidence in court.
Yes,
It was-
you absolutely
It was
can.
obtained
You
before you were
absolutely
entering.
can. That's why you have those JCS videos in the first place.
They're
No,
called-
those were people who were arrested.
Not always, not always.
Well, they definitely did it with Flynn, right? The whole point was to see if you admit to something under investigation.
The FBI, there's, who was it, Attorney General Mukasey in 2008.
They always read you your rights when you're being interviewed by the
introduced
police,
these guidelines that allows the FBI
even if you're not
to
under
do what are
arrest.
called assessments. And you need zero probable cause to go and follow
They have
someone,
no
so
clue what they're
physically
talking about.
surveil them, send in informants to talk to them and elicit, information and access public, information and potentially, I think, like commercial information. So it's shady. I mean,
I mean,
obviously, it's not all
it's not
bad
shady.
intent, and it can be used for good.
So I've had three interviews with the FBI because I get people saying crazy stuff about me online. So they come and they talk to me. When the FBI shows up, they knock. They say, "Hey, we're agents from the local branch," and I say, "Okay, I'll answer a couple questions, but otherwise I'm not saying anything. If you want to charge me with something, you can." Most of the time they can. But like a lot of policing, I don't know if we have police officers in here. A lot of policing happens before any criminal official process is started. Whether it's walking up to somebody on the street and asking them like, "Hey, what are you doing here? What's going on?" Or whether it's an FBI agent looking into something through some publicly available information. The idea that you would completely defang all of your investigatory agencies and say that you don't have a warrant, you can't even look at a person. I mean, that is a route that we can go, but I don't think that people would generally be happy with the outcomes of that route if a lot of stuff started basically slip through, because you need a concrete, 100%, we can only talk to this guy, we literally have the warrant signed by the judge to indict him with a crime and arrest him. I don't think people would be happy with the outcome of what society would look like if that was the case.
Again, I think it's a tool, and it can be used for good, and it can be used for not good. And so we need to look at who are the people wielding this tool, How are they trained? What's the accountability? Is there transparency? Are there consequences if they abuse the tool? And I think that's our biggest issue right now is there aren't.
I wanted to see if we could bring this back to what James was talking about, which is trust and being able to trust these agencies. I don't think, for example, the ATF, I think, is a good example. They don't do themselves a lot of favors when they're responsible for interpreting laws that Congress has passed that are supposed to form, basically the interpretation of these laws, like going to the bump stock issue. They issued, I think, something like 10 private letters establishing the legality of these bump stocks. And then, because some mass shootings happened, and Trump was like, oh, we're going to do something about these bump stocks, all of a sudden they outlawed it, even though there's been no change in existing law, which is not something they're really actually allowed to do. They changed, the definition is very clear on what a machine
about
gun
an
is,
hour-ish.
but then they just decided to go in there because Trump's like,
I had to end the stream because my picture went out for a little bit, but now we're back in business.
Well, I mean, the ATF is an organization that exists under the purview.
It was
of the
very
president,
boring
president
before
information to these
this
agencies. Bump
iteration.
stocks aren't constitutionally protected things. Like that's part of the executive privilege of how any of these EPA or anything operates. We don't pass a new law every time a new type of thing happens within these agencies. It just wouldn't work. Congress would shut it.
But it's specific in law what counts as a machine gun, so you can't outlaw something and call it a machine. For example, like what if the ATF tomorrow decided to call every handgun a machine gun because the ATF says so? They're not. Or one that doesn't have the smart guns they want to move to that you can actually disable from a remote distance, and you have to have the right fingerprint to fire it. That's how they're going
Wait,
to get around
a
it. They said
fingerprint?
the
It doesn't
only
mean
gun you're allowed
remote.
to have
What the
is-
fuck?
Yeah, that would require legislation.
If it's illegal, where are the legal
But
changes?
so we're kind of
No,
cutting
there
it.
is, this is their issue. It's actually pending.
All right, so for a second, just real quick, I gotta go to everybody. We do have Q&A coming up, which probably has to go machine gun style, so
These
go
people
ahead
are
and line up,
fucking crazy. They're stupid as fuck, dog.
Yeah, but
Holy
this is-
shit.
This isn't about the ATF, okay? So this is about the general question.
That was Peter Coffin that just walked by.
Said here, and that is that if you have these
Oh shit, there are people looking at me super angrily. Oh fuck, I might have said something too loud.
But holy shit, look at the CDC. Oh, you can wear masks this week, but you have to wear them then. You don't have to wear them. Like, nobody can trust this stuff, and this is the science. We have to, when you have policy that can just change in the wind with administrative, decree, we have gotten a long way away from the way our republic was established. And that's an issue that, regardless of legality, regardless of, that's how we've spent the last 100 years screwing up our
Here, I'm gonna go,
republic,
let's go ask Jangles what he thought of this. This is fucking crazy schizo shit.
When you have this ability, as we just witnessed through the pandemic, especially with the FDA, CDC, et cetera, outlawing all of a sudden Apple pectin, which you're not allowed to talk about because you get your Twitter account taken away from you, outlawing N-acetylcysteine for F's sake, because maybe it helps denature spike proteins and reduce inflammation. If you have
So James, just one
what
second.
I'm saying is you lose all of your trust in these agencies if they can just start doing this crap. And so this is one of the main reasons why I don't trust these agencies. I can't trust these agencies. If they can declare a pandemic, we all have to stay home. Now there's a racial justice issue, so you don't have to stay home if that's the reason you're not
Where
staying
am I
home.
wrong, C?
Like, you can't trust agencies that operate this way, fundamentally.
Okay, now let's see if...
No, I know. This shit's crazy as fuck. Wait, what did Destiny say that was wrong?
One of the more frustrating talks to listen to, mostly because so much of it is about legal
Conspiracy?
issues that,
Oh.
say like, I'm not sure about this or that, so
Okay, let's go say hi to Jangles because the Q&A is
lawyers would be really
dumb.
helpful. But going back, like,
Yeah, where's the lawyers at for this conversation?
I'm just in philosophy background, so I can't go outside.
Yeah.
But my question would be to see
Go ahead,
back,
sorry.
Can I trust the Department of the Interior or something? Can I trust not just the
Fucking like 10-minute long fucking schizo rant. Holy fucking shit, that was the fucking funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. They've got petabytes of data underneath the mountains, bro. Are they in your walls, James? Are they in your walls? Scratching?
Went full ACAB.
I know. Jesus fucking Christ. I feel like I started buying into it at a certain point. I started feeling like the chip in my brain started overheating. Oh fuck. They were saying, stop listening.
It's degrees of trust. It's never like, oh, you can absolutely trust
Shut
them
it
or
down.
you can't trust it all. Yeah, I think it varies. I think, some agencies are a lot more credible than others. I'd say, you can't really trust the CIA all that much. I mean, they literally spied on the Senate, lied to them about it, and then what happened from it?
Do you guys have any questions that I should ask?
CBO is like, I don't know, people have big beefs with the CBO. I mean, sometimes people don't like their numbers.
All right, and anyone that's on stream or in the audience, DM us if you're a lawyer. Put you on the list.
So my question is, I think most people would recognize innocent until proven guilty as like a foundational concept in our...
Bro, what if I walked up there? What if I walked up there and I just like asked James
fundamentally different
if the microchip that they put in everyone's brain at birth started getting hot while he started saying that? And if it didn't, why didn't the FBI try and shut him down while he said it?
That's like where we line up on that. But the techniques we're talking about are kind of guaranteed to probably catch up some innocent people. And we're saying that we'd rather get that terrorist or whatever, even if it costs a few innocent people. So what are your thoughts on that?
Innocent until proven guilty is something that the courts are supposed to uphold. Like, I don't think we look to law enforcement to just assume the innocence of every person, otherwise law enforcement wouldn't do anything, right? I mean, the goal ultimately should be that the courts, through the process of submitting evidence before a judge and all of that, are making sure that the techniques that the investigatory agencies, whether we're talking local law enforcement or FBI, are constitutionally valid.
And you just made me think of one of the most prevalent and effective techniques employed by law enforcement to ensure someone's guilt in the courts is the media, is using the media. You indict in the media, and there is no innocent until proven guilty in our current kind of polarized culture. It's very effective.
For criminal charges, what does that mean?
Like an agent might do, or the DOJ will do a press release and say all these awful things that have not been proven. They don't need to present evidence. They create a media storm. They have relationships with, wonderful papers like the New York Times and things like that.
What is she talking about?
It's again like they're very powerful, but somehow completely incompetent. Wasn't it like 500 or 600 people arrested over the January 6th stuff? Haven't they thrown out like 300 or 400 of those indictments? Shouldn't all of these people have been arrested and then charged if they had so much power to influence the media and then influence the courts? And then
Not this time. This time the courts got it right.
I don't think she's talking about the whole legal process, but there is this relationship where, like, for example, when Roger Stone was arrested, they got a tip from the people, I think the FBI who was arresting him. This media got a tip and they were able to film that. And it was like this whole production of like the SWAT team going and everything. I mean, there's absolutely this relationship, and they're trying to paint a picture of, this person bad. And it's not even to necessarily get a conviction. Sometimes
That's what the prosecution does, yes.
You can ruin
That's what prosecutions
Once
do.
they're committed to their thesis in the public, they're much more incentivized to be right than to seek truth and justice.
This is true, and it is an issue. But then and then on the other end, I think in the United Kingdom sometimes they're quick to gag certain cases and you can't have public discussions because they agree that they don't want it influencing the trial. But then on the other end, you'll have hardcore constitutional people that will say things like, well, hold on, you have a right to a public trial. We don't want, because I feel like if it was the opposite way, where, we don't have any of these people, filming, Roger Stone getting arrested or whatever, now we'd be up here saying like, well, I think it's crazy that you're arresting people and we don't get any information about the court, we don't know anything about what's going on, we
But
can't talk
filming a
about
trial is very different than filming someone's perp walk and public humiliation before they've even had a chance to go to trial. Yeah, federal trials are not recorded. State trials.
it. Wait, hold on, you're saying criminal?
Federal.
I don't know about federal, but most criminal charges are state charges anyways. We're talking about like rape and murder, whatever these are. Sure, I don't know about federal. We're talking about things like murder cases or rape cases.
Supreme Court's never televised, by the way.
I just brought up the media is a very effective tool. It doesn't apply in all cases, but it definitely is.
Yeah, I'm just asking, like, what is the alternative?
How many cases happen in?
Ongoing cases?
Maybe film the federal trials.
I think filming
Why do they-
federal trials is
Why does the
essential.
trial need to be filmed?
Many other ideas, but I think that that people, the
Both
citizens
actual
don't
Justice
have
Warrior
responsibility
and
the same way the courts
Peter
do, as
Coffin
you're
are in the
saying,
Q&A
to
line.
innocent until proven guilty. There needs to be some thoughtfulness around how to handle someone who's charged before they're allowed their day in court.
We're gonna get another one, so we're kind of running out of time. Go ahead.
I will also ask if you have a question,
Sorry.
stand up and get in line to ask a question and not yell from the stands.
I just noticed that Destiny's breaking the no outside drink rule. You're breaking the no outside drink rule, it's past 3.
No, outside drink.
Fucking snitch.
What was announced?
In a
So the question was asked is,
in a conversation about fucking police and how much the fucking conservatives hate them.
get
We
information.
have a fucking snitch coming up to the Q&A? What the fuck?
And narrow information. It's not like it's easy to sue. FOIA requests go where.
Yeah, get real close to the mic. You kind of
How
got
do we
I think the question
like.
is,
You don't have to make out with it, but you do have to.
how do
get
you
close.
properly audit the FBI is the question.
Well, there needs to be a group that is not the FBI and is not beholden to FBI, is not.
We'll probably talk to
does not
Destiny when he gets off
answer to
stage.
a
What snitched the guy
political,
that just asked the question, saying that
force
Destiny brought
that
a drink from outside and it's against the theater's rules?
Just get rid of it.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but we already have processes in place with like inspector generals, like you have, that's what happened. That's what
And
happened
nobody
with
else cares. No, he was just trying to
spy on
fuck
the
with
Senate.
Destiny.
We learned, about the details of it through an inspector general's report. So, even with the Russiagate stuff, there was another independent inspector general. So I think inspector generals are a decent way to go about it.
This question is for Nuance, bro. Do you think it's moral for a three-letter agency to overthrow a democratic government to establish an authoritarian, oppressive monarchy?
I think DOJ is be a monarchy.
Yes.
Okay, this is actual Justice Warrior here.
So my question is, you guys talk a lot about entrapment, but like entrapment is the government tricking you into committing a crime for the sole purpose of securing a prosecution. Obviously, we're not in favor of that because you're bringing a random criminal into a situation they wouldn't be in. My question is do you guys support actually investigating and finding these plots? Because you're talking about all these edge cases where the FBI goes out, finds somebody who's already working on a plan and interceding, or is it like the number of agents in key positions that bothers you? Because it seems like you were talking about how many people were FBI rather than what stage of the plot it was at before the FBI got involved.
Yeah, I mean, again, when I was talking, about this, I always talked about the entrapment aspects, which I'm not a fan of, but I actually don't have a problem with the FBI doing these sort of fishing expeditions. I don't have a problem with police doing it. Like, I don't have a problem with bait cars. I don't have a problem with, outside of just disagreeing with aspects of the drug war, I don't have problems with the specific tactic of, being the drug dealer or whatever, and catching the person doing it, etc. Same for bigger scale type federal investigations.
Fellow precog.
Go ahead.
Open question for the whole panel. How can we trust these agencies when they meddle in our national political decisions, when they label the Hunter Biden laptop scandal as Russian misinformation?
Oh my fucking god. Oh no, they're soy clapping.
Most of those were like former heads who were talking about that at the time. So they were always saying, oh, former heads of, this and that. Like, at that point, they're all political actors anyway. They were probably political actors to begin with. And again, I don't really agree that we can fully trust any of these agencies, but in that particular case, it was, I think, mostly former heads talking about how.
Did you guys know that Hunter Biden had a laptop and he had dick pics on it too? Soy. Did you know that Hunter Biden did meth?
So if the FBI and the CIA and the government in general is so corrupt, how comes people like Kyle Rittenhouse and Trump, how comes they haven't been put in jail, and how is Kyle Rittenhouse being able to get off?
Free Kyle.
Well,
DGG right there.
I don't know how many DOD employees that were appointed by Trump you're aware of.
Next up is Peter Coffin.
Persecuted and following what's happened with Project Veritas, for example, in similar regard. But to say that these agencies are corrupt is not to say that every single judge is corrupt. It's not to say that every single jurisdiction is corrupt. It's not to say that every single detail within the broader corrupt program is a problem. It's to say that the agency itself is behaving in ways that are completely unacceptable, possibly illegal. It's not just I don't like it, possibly illegal, possibly unconstitutional, and that what we actually do need is we need to rely upon judges who will adjudicate on these things and hash these things out. And we should be thankful.
That's James Lindsay.
There are some judges who have not gone completely over to a political agenda, and it's ultimately adopting a political agenda that corrupts these things. As we just talked about it. What do you do when you start to believe that the CDC has adopted a political agenda? What do you do when you see former heads of the FBI clearly acting as political actors rather than, and of course you just see FBI when you're an average dude watching television, and you say, well, FBI head guy, okay, that's all you remember, you know, a former, who cares? No one pays attention. What that does is it erodes trust. But to say that these entities have corruption and even a significant scale isn't to say that literally every person involved in the entire system is corrupt. Corruption, it's like rust, right? Everybody knows I have swords. Everybody knows that if you have carbon steel, you have to treat it. Rust, it's like it starts in one little spot and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not like your sword is shiny one day and the next day it's this like red crusty thing.
James, did you bring your swords?
No, they don't travel well. Go ahead, Peter.
I can't hear about this issue or like the Whitmer incident without thinking about Afeni Shakur, who fought the FBI on charges of attacks on police stations, where the FBI agents had infiltrated the Black Panthers and not only coerced but also took part in planning those attacks. When she brought those concerns of their infiltration to her partner, he said, man, they couldn't be cops. You should have seen the shit that they did. She successfully fought these charges without a lawyer, meaning it was a pretty airtight case. I've seen evidence that agents involved in the Whitmer incident were involved in a planning capacity. That doesn't sound like a honeypot to me, that sounds more like entrapment. So I feel like the question here is, how can we call for anything other than more intense scrutiny on these agencies and other than transparency? I don't see how you can defend these actions on any level, and if there are multiple incidents of this in the past, which there are, Afeni Shakur is one of many, how do we trust them at all, period?
The question of trusting agencies is a stupid question. In the United
It's the topic, though.
I mean, you don't want to so it matters. In the United States of America, we don't inherently trust any institution. This is why our entire...
Why defend them then?
This is... I hate this guy.
The feeling's mutual.
He's deep-throating the mic.
In the United States of America, we have so many checks and balances set up because we inherently do not trust these institutions. The question should never be, do we trust an institution to what? To operate without oversight, to operate without any sort of check and balance? The question should be, what do we need to implement to ensure that we feel like the organization is properly being checked by other types of organizations in our government? I'm glad that we've changed now saying possibly illegal and possibly unconstitutional, because we do have these auditing processes in government to check, whether we're talking about inspector generals, whether we're talking about the DOJ, the FBI, or whatever. We have processes in place to check what's happening. It feels like, and I know I'm triggering a couple of what I say this, but it feels like we use words like illegal or unconstitutional or not right, but we really mean to say, I just don't like what's happening. And I really do think that a lot of these organizations are in like damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. I'm reminded a lot of Comey, who is a lifelong Republican, appointed by a Republican, who got accused by everybody of being a partisan hack for the Democratic side, even though arguably him going public with the FBI findings of Hillary Clinton might have been the sole, not the sole reason, but might have been the tipping point for why she lost that election. But people will still say that he was a Republican stooge. But I think Comey is like, is emblematic of this, where he is, where he's a guy who's like, okay, the FBI is doing an investigation. If we don't say anything about Hillary Clinton, nobody in the public is going to trust us. We're absolutely screwed. We're going to have, these guys on stage saying that like, well, we rigged the investigation, we didn't find anything. I have to, even if we're not recommending charges. I have to come up publicly and make a statement. And he did that to arguably the detriment of the Clinton campaign. But that, again, that was like a damn if you do, if you don't. He came out, he made a public statement. Hillary was basically indicted in the public eye. I don't know if either of you have complained about that, but she essentially was. And there was a lot of blowback, I think, from Comey's pretty damning statements about her, even though it really wasn't his capacity to say anything. So again, it always feels like a damn if you do, damn if you don't. I think there's not going to be like a silver bullet way to ensure transparency in any of these like investigatory bodies, because the nature of what they do, makes everything so hard to just see it perfectly and clearly and not have it affect one outcome or another.
At the time, I had Trump derangement syndrome, so just like you. So, real quick though, we have. Yeah, well, okay, go ahead. Never mind. I was just gonna say that you're glad that I changed my language about this is gonna be personal. So we've now changed it. Oh, possibly blah 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 blah. That just means I don't like. Well, you keep saying I generally don't believe that this could possibly be happening. And normalcy bias is a thing too. Okay, so I suggest that things that are illegal are very likely happening, and you want me to adjust that. So let's work on the normalcy bias too. It turns out corruption can happen, is happening.
You're not pushing back on the fact that you're a conspiracy theorist.
Self-interest, we can trust people to act in their self-interest. There seems to be a disconnect in the original mission intent and self-interest of the agencies. So how is the best way, short of abolishing them, to bring them back to that mission intent?
I think it has to do with the culture and the incentives. So if they are incentivized to always
There are
win and be right,
28 people watching and only 12 likes on the stream.
they shouldn't be
Let's fix that, y'all.
for necessarily finding someone guilty. I think that, like, scientifically speaking, your experiment doesn't work 98% of the time, which is our conviction rate. So if there should be more of a culture of rewarding evidence, justice, and even upholding innocent until proven guilty.
There we go.
And even if you think the person is guilty, but you can't prove it.
Yeah, pump that number up, motherfucker.
But my experience and understanding of kind of the mindset is that by any means necessary. If we think this person is bad and a criminal, then we'll do whatever it takes, and the ends justify the means, and that needs to change.
To Nikki's point, Kyle's law is actually a good example of this, where they're actually flipping the incentives. Where let's say you have a prosecutor who wants to destroy someone's life because they disagree with the nature of self-defense at all. Putting something in like Kyle's law, which actually allows them to recoup a bunch of the costs and things like that for the victim. I think things like that are actually
Y'all heading out?
consequences. Those are good things you can put in that actually
Y'all heading out?
the incentives. Yes. Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm just gonna head back down that way. If the FBI targets something intends to be a certain
Yeah, I understand.
and that's not entrapment, because I believe if the pedophile goes online, that's Ren's right, guilty mind. However, with the Whitmer plot, for example, they have posted things that I hate Whitmer, I want her to resign, I think she should be out of office. They now target those people. Do you think that the core issue, what we're facing, what the judgment of it, is people taking the FBI, for example, taking free speech and turning it into mens rea, guilty minds, we must investigate you?
I mean, I absolutely think that can happen. I don't know that that's true in all cases, but yeah, absolutely.
Hello, Destiny. I would like to thank you for coming here, and it's really good to have her, another opinion. I find it's a very interesting opinion. I'll tell you that much. The first thing I'd like to tell you is that you were bringing up the pedophilia cases with that. I forgot what his name is.
Hanson, Chris Hanson.
A lot of those guys walked because it was found to be entrapment.
I think there were a couple, but I don't think
There
the
was
majority of them
the
did.
majority of them walked.
Like
A couple of them did get sentenced, but was because of the legal ramifications regarding it. Yes. And I was just wondering on as far as the Whitmer case is concerned, and considering accountability, should entrapment be considered for some of these FBI agents that were involved in that case?
I haven't read enough on the Whitmer case itself. That's why I'm not making any precise statements about it. I wouldn't be able to say. I can't come to an answer.
I think it should
Might
be
make a good
considered.
show.
I think we should reconsider.
Son of a bitch.
This question is largely for James, but as a person who believes in limited government myself, why do we believe that is possible or desirable? I mean, let them have their Putins and Hitlers. They want them. I want a constitution, and they want Putin and Hitler. Let's just separate and go our separate ways.
So the national divorce idea, this is actually where I part ways with a lot of people that describe themselves as new right. I do not support
Okay, once the
national
Q&A is over, we'll start another stream
I
up.
actually think that the premise of the United States is that people should be able to have different opinions. Believe it or not, I might be one of the most anti-woke or anti-Marxist people on the planet, and yet I think that communists are fully constitutionally protected and should be able to make their arguments, etc. in this country. That is their belief, that's their religion, and that is their First Amendment right. Now, national divorce is another matter, and I just think it's a bad idea because I actually believe in the union for kind of a principled reason. I understand I don't want to share a country with these people sentiment, but my hesitation on a national divorce is virtually entirely practical. In fact, my abject fear of a national divorce is entirely practical. We have a gigantic nuclear arsenal in this country. The second we enter into that level of political turbulence, you're going to see a UN declaration that the US nuclear arsenal is no longer safe, is no longer secure, and we're going to have Chinese and UN forces come in and help secure
Oh my
the United
God, this
States.
guy's
The
thought of
goal
every
the
contingency.
operation that we're under is to split the United States. So why in the world should we help them? Once the United States splits politically, you can't say, oh, well, the silos happen to be in Texas, therefore those are red state nukes, and sorry, New York, you don't have that many. This is not how that is going to work.
And I will direct you to last year's panel. You can find it on YouTube at Get the Four Man Walking, where we talk about a national divorce. And check it out. We're going last question.
I actually have a couple of questions. One for this one. Okay. I guess the question
We only have an economy of time.
Understood. As far as the woke ideology that is creeping into these three-letter agencies, and so on
Woke
and so forth, how do we
ideology.
go about putting the axe in those and putting a stop to it so that we can trust them again?
So what's really funny is all I actually wanted to talk about in this panel, which never came up, was the fact that I Googled a lot of these. Virtually every three-letter agency, whether that's a traditional, what we think of law enforcement type CIA, NSA, DIA, whatever, FBI, or whether it's one of these other kinds of administrative entities like the CDC, or if we even get to these departments that have cabinet positions like the Department of Education, and so on. That's a very broad definition of three-letter agencies, but virtually every one of them has another three-letter entity within it, a counter-hegemonic one, you might say, if you understand your Antonio Gramsci, which is called its Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I don't trust any entity that has a diversity, equity, and inclusion office has any authority or power over that entity whatsoever.
Oh my God.
Because I understand what diversity, equity, and inclusion represents. I understand where it came from. I understand the theory behind it. We don't have a lot of time to get into it. But at the end of the day, either the entity is on board with that ideology, in which case I absolutely cannot trust them, because it's a nightmare in the making, or it's too stupid to understand what it's implementing full bore, in which case I cannot trust them because they're too stupid. So they're either incompetent or they're evil if they're implementing a DEI office. And every single one has this. The main thing I actually wanted to say in this whole panel, it was one sentence. I'm still absolutely shell-shocked from these promo videos the CIA put out last year, where you literally had whatever it was, a Latino woman or something walking around, and she's describing her life, and they make these like cool high production value
He has
videos.
PTSD
and the woman's like blah blah blah, and I don't care about her
from
life features.
fucking
But then she
FBI
says, I have
stuff.
generalized anxiety disorder, then blah blah blah, I am the CIA. And I'm like, no! And why is somebody with generalized anxiety disorder being promoted as the ideal CIA agent in a promo
Wait, I
reel
thought you
put out
didn't
by
like the CIA. I thought you didn't like the
exactly the thing
CIA.
that the psychological assessment should have screamed out. But the answer is because what they're actually promoting is the diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology that they've accepted. So somebody
It is
with
so
anxiety disorder
unbelievably-
is diverse.
Nuance Bro wants the last word.
Unbelievably black-filling how many people are nodding along and like pointing at him and saying based.
One thing I wasn't a big fan of that Trump actually did this was to kind of start decentralizing or not having them all these agencies, these three-letter agencies in Washington D.C. at the seat of power. He put like Bureau of Land Management in Grand Junction, Colorado, having it actually closer to the source of Bureau of Land Management land. I think it'd be good if we could do this with more agencies and have them not all
in this, in the slum.
It's actually not super crowded this time.
Easily accessed by lobbyists and all the corrupt powers. So I think if it was more dispersed.
Okay, remember guys, after this panel, I'm probably going to reset the stream so that the picture comes back, all right? There's a link in the description for my donation link.
We have an hour and a half this time.
Please, if you're feeling generous, use that donation link. I have exactly $0 in my account now.
Unless I'm missing anything that Mike, you might want to say, go ahead and get something to eat and we'll meet back.
If I get $100, all right, listen, if I get $100 in donations today, I will go into the Q&A and I will ask Lauren Southern to say Obama. Just $100 in donations, and I will ask Lauren Southern in front of everyone to say Obama.
Yeah, I don't think you'll like it driving, to be honest.
Oh my fucking god.
You probably wouldn't want to risk
Yes.
your life, just to go there.
What's that?
Driving there and yeah. I mean, it looks like it's really fun.
I feel the same way.
That's a very curious
Yeah.
feeling. I don't know where it's coming from. Hey, we gotta take a picture together.
Yes, we do. John, if you can post that for me, that would be great. I need to start stream over, all right? So everyone keep your... whatever the fuck. I don't know how to fucking share a stream off of fucking mobile, all right? I'm ending the stream. I'm starting it back up so the video's back.